Hello, and welcome to today's health webinar. We're excited to have you join us. We would like to remind you that the Q&A feature is available, so feel free to send in your questions and comments throughout today's session. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll follow up after the webinar. And with that, I'll turn it over to the President of Community at Health, Chandana Fitzgerald, to introduce today's session.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to today's webinar on Health Beyond the Show Floor. My name is Chandana, and I'm the President of Health's Year-Round Activities. Healthiverse is the universe of activities that Health has on offer beyond the conference and all year round. We want to be part of our customers' journeys throughout the year. What we've built is a community of senior leaders and decision makers from across the healthcare ecosystem, health systems, pharma, payers, investors, entrepreneurs that convene virtually and in person through the course of the year to continue to build on the dialogue, share knowledge, and foster relationships that they may have started at the event. All of our activities are by community members and for community members. In addition, we also power the insights and content engine for health by giving you the latest trends, briefings, and information on your fingertips every day of the year. We expect today's session to take approximately 30 minutes. We hope that you will walk away from the session with a strong sense of how health can be your year-round partner, how health can further advance your strategic imperative even after or before our events, and elevate your brand and help you forge the relationships and deals that are essential for your business. You will also hear firsthand from our clients on how they've achieved success with us and the experience of working with us. High-stakes partnerships are not built on data alone. They're built on trust. All of our programs help you build exactly this. As one payer executive told us, it's rare to have time for real dialogue with peers across the industry, and that's exactly what we offer in the form of curated products. Over the next few minutes, Julie and I will walk you through a couple of our flagship products just to give you a feel for what Health's year-round activities look and feel like. Health Insiders. Insiders are curated, closed-door, in-person experiences with a highly senior audience. These are intimate, trusted rooms. They're designed for open dialogue rather than broadcast messaging. What makes Insiders really powerful for our partners is that it comes with a hand-selected group of senior leaders in attendance. It's a neutral peer-to-peer environment, which is really the essence of everything that we do. It helps position your brand as a convener and thought partner, not just as a sponsor. And you get tangible outputs like pre-reads and post-event insight reports that enrich the value of these events. For partners, a lot of these assets then serve as a recruitment engine, and it signals a high-trust, high-value conversation, not just a sales event. And the beauty of these insiders is that they can happen in any city at any time of year. Our insiders are often where the deepest conversations happen, surfacing challenges and opportunities that may not show up on a main stage. What you're seeing now on the screen is an example of one such insider that we ran with our partners at Viz.ai, Jude's going to be speaking to us shortly. And you can see we convened this group in 2025. This was a pharma-focused session. Some very senior stakeholders from across the New York, New Jersey area who came together for half a day of dialogue, roundtables, panel discussions, and networking. So a really rich experience all around. And while you have to be at this session to get the juice of it all, we do produce a short asset in the form of a white paper, which you will see in a second, that we then share back with everybody that attended, as well as the rest of our community, as a thought leadership asset and a really great way to continue the partnerships and the conversation. So that's just a little bit about Health Insiders, which are one of our formats of keeping our community engaged all year round.
Thanks, Chandana. Hi, I'm Julie. I lead growth for Health Community. Next, I wanted to talk about the Health Roundtables. So the Roundtables build further on the intimacy from the insiders, but with a sharper strategic focus. These are small, expert-facilitated peer discussions, typically with 6 to 8 external participants, plus our partners team, and they're designed to explore a very specific business or industry question. Partners choose the health roundtables when they want to pressure test a hypothesis, or they want to engage directly with senior decision makers to grow their business. Or lastly, they want to generate actionable insights that can inform their strategy, inform their partnering roadmap, as well as their product roadmap. So health handles absolutely everything. We handle the white glove participant recruitment and the moderation and the insight capture on the day, as well as all the logistics. We really ensure that the conversation stays outcome driven and that, of course, the senior guests have a really elevated experience as well. This is an example of a recent enough roundtable. It is on the future of integrated care in the NHS, and we did this with Optum UK. In this roundtable, we really want to examine how intelligent, joined up data and interoperable systems could reshape care delivery in the UK over the next 10 years and really move care from being predominantly provided. What you'll notice here is the clarity of the topic and then the specificity of the senior decision makers that we recruited. A lot of these folks are CEOs of NHS trusts, so the exact partner that we needed to have at the table here. And just like the insider, we often create really great reports that capture the insights, but that can also be used for thought leadership going forward. So this is the report where we took some background on the topic, we shared the agenda, the very senior decision makers that joined us, as well as the key themes that we heard on the day and a lot of the insights. All of these events are Chatham House rules, so there's no recording or attribution, but as you'll see here, there's a huge amount of insights captured over the hour and a half.
And finally,
next we can...
sorry, Julie,
yes.
go ahead.
I say next we can move on to our final product, and the health entrees.
Yes, so our final product for this afternoon that we want to talk about before we bring in our client Jude into the mix is Entree. Health Entree is our most surgical engagement format. What you're seeing on the screen are some photographs from one of the real dinners that happened a couple of months ago. Instead of broad exposure, what we have done is we've moved into what we call the private room. It's a curated dinner with the exact C-suite leaders that you want to be in conversation with. Just like our roundtable, this is a 100% turnkey experience. Health handles the outreach, every operational detail. Your team just shows up and you're focused on one thing, which is that peer-to-peer dialogue, which will help accelerate your business and your sales cycle. What sponsors value most is precision. So first, the guest list is hand-selected to match your ideal customer profile. Second, there's zero friction. We do the heavy lifting from invitations to execution. And third, the health advantage. Our global network helps you reach senior leaders that are often inaccessible through traditional channels. We currently only have limited spots for Q1, for insiders, for roundtables, as well as for our dinners. If you are thinking about a curated engagement for early 2026, now is the moment for you to plan your event with us. And if you're a leader from either pharma, payers, or health systems, or employers listening in today, we invite you to participate in these curated sessions. These are designed for you and for your peer-to-peer engagement. Just log on to our platform and apply to the next dinner or next roundtable.
Thank you, Chandana. So next we wanted to jump into our partner perspective. So often the real power and the best outcomes, honestly, comes from using these products together. So that system-wide approach is exactly what our next conversation will bring to life. So we're thrilled to be joined by Jude Greenspan, who is the Director of Life Sciences Marketing at Viz.ai. We worked with Jude and the Viz.ai team in 2025 across multiple formats off the show floor and on the show floor as well as at Health, actually. We did 2 insider events, which the Viz team cleverly coined Visionary Summits. We did thought leadership content and we did a webinar. All of this was really to engage senior pharma leaders around AI adoption at the point of care. So Jude, thank you so much. You're really welcome. It's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Perfect. So Jude, To start us off, for anyone who isn't aware of Viz.ai, could you talk a little bit about what Viz.ai does and who you predominantly serve?
Yeah, so Viz builds AI-powered inflow in workflow intelligence solutions that help care teams identify patients earlier, get them to the right diagnosis and optimal treatment, while also reducing the burden on care teams. So our technology is used in health systems. We're actually integrated at the point of care across 2,000 hospitals and used by doctors and other healthcare providers. And we also work with pharma companies to partner on new solutions where there are gaps and where we can leverage our platform to make it easier for HCPs to diagnose, coordinate care, and make the best decisions for treatments and patients. So our work really sits at the intersection of the key kind of healthcare stakeholders of providers, pharma, and technology.
Excellent. Thank you, Jude. I know there's quite a few providers and pharma on the line, so I know that will be useful, as well as folks like Viz.ai that are hoping to kind of scale their businesses across the next year. So thank you. So, Jude, maybe bringing you back to this time next year, or this time last year, can you talk to us a little bit about the challenge you were trying to solve at Viz?
Yeah, I'd say in short, we were looking for a forum or a way of bringing together different senior leaders from across pharma, different big pharma companies who are interested in working with Viz or who are already doing so. So as I said, while our solutions are actually used by providers, we've in recent years increasingly been approached by pharmaceutical companies who have been interested in working with us on new solutions where there are care gaps, like for example in oncology, where there's an overwhelming amount of new treatments and indications each year that and HCPs could struggle to keep up with guidelines. And this is somewhere where AI solutions like Viz are really being deployed at the point of care. So we were seeing this really clear shift that pharma leaders believed AI mattered and was being used by HCPs, and they wanted to partner with companies like Viz as a kind of an addition or replacement of more traditional commercial strategies. But many pharma stakeholders were stuck between curiosity and action, how to partner with Viz in the right way, how to get it, get internal buy-in. So on one hand, while we had a bunch of big pharma we were already working with, we had other big pharma that weren't sure how exactly to do so. So we thought, how great would it be to bring together people we were already working with, as well as people who were really interested in doing so to foster this kind of conversation. And there are obviously big conferences throughout the year, like the Health Conference and others that a lot of senior pharma leaders attend, but they tend to be concentrated on different specialty areas. So like medical meetings, you'll have all people working in oncology or cardiology, or at other more vertical focused conferences, you'll have people working in, just marketing or just technology. So we really wanted to make sure it was the right mix of people. So we thought hosting our own event made sense, and health was the really logical partner to work with to do so.
Thank you, Jude. Yeah, it was really exciting, and it makes sense when you want to curate the audience to such a specific level, to do it yourself and kind of handpick those folks. Um, and Jude, you chose to work with us on multiple formats throughout the year. So we had the two summits at the start of the year, then we had the two white papers that kind of came off those summits, as well as the webinar towards the end of the year. We felt like you were a really kind of thoughtful and strategic partner. For the folks on the line that might be hoping to do something similar, can you talk us through your thinking behind the sequencing of each of these activations and what each one unlocked for you throughout the course of the year as well?
Yeah, so I think the summits, like I said, were really great at bringing together people together in person to have a conversation around the space, not just Viz. We knew that the conversation, in order to make it worth people's time, we were really inviting really senior leaders from pharma. We wanted to make sure it wasn't just focused on just talking about Viz and something that could have been a virtual conversation, but having a broader conversation about AI, the AI space and how it's being used by doctors, and then moving towards, more practical examples. And then another key element was that Health developed white papers following each of our summits. So that gave us a way to kind of capture key insights and to share that out more broadly so that, beyond just in the room, we were able to really merchandise that conversation and share key insights, and really promote that white paper throughout the year. So actually, one of the white papers that we did from one of the 2 summits we've done to date with health is our top downloaded resource from our website. Um,
Oh, amazing. I'm
yeah,
delighted.
and yes, and then thirdly, hosting other activations with health. So we decided to do a webinar with health, which was kind of came up separately, but we ended up feeling that health was a really logical partner for that as well as our presence at the actual health conference where we had a booth, and then we had a couple of different companies, people from our company, speak at the conference as well.
Thank you, Jude. Yes, we had a very busy year together for sure. That's really exciting to hear that it was the top downloaded resource from your website. That's great to hear. And Jude, can we just touch a little bit? You mentioned this already, but could you touch a little bit more on what the closed door summits allowed that the large forums couldn't? So obviously you could convene the exact room you wanted to. And I know we spent a lot of time together hand selecting the very, very specific stakeholders. I know you mentioned we absolutely didn't focus on Viz. It was very thought leadership driven. Was there anything else that really stood out to you? Because I know you're doubling down on these events next year. So anything else that really stood out to the team that these small insiders gave you access to?
Yeah, I think the things that you said in terms of being able to control the topic, and develop an agenda that was highly relevant to the people we're bringing together, have key people speak at the events. I think working with health also allowed us to expand our network. So we really controlled a lot of the invites, and they were people that we already had relationships with, but there were also people in the health network that were really relevant that health invited. So we were able to build new relationships coming out of that. And I think having the attendees be able to walk away with really clear insights from each other. So for example, there was one company that we were in talks with for almost a year about partnering together, and that partnership had gotten kind of stuck at a certain stage. And based on the insights shared at the panel, that partnership was able to get across the finish line just after the
Excellent.
summit. The summit was really that event that kind of propelled getting that partnership across the finish line.
Excellent. We love to hear that. Um, and Jude, from your perspective, why were these events a success? Obviously, partnerships bringing out of these events is the number one. And we're absolutely thrilled that partnerships did come out of these events or these summits. Any other kind of success metrics for you and the Viz team?
I think that just generally the number of attendees that we had a very specific group of people that we wanted to get at the event, as well as a number of people we wanted to get at the event, and we've surpassed both of those each time. We also, of course, look at how the resources coming out of the summits are used. So the number of downloads we see of that resource, the number of people we see reaching out, following them. And I'd say, generally speaking, like the new relationships that we are able to build and cultivate throughout the year. So how it kind of propels that customer journey following the summits.
Excellent. And Jude, we're absolutely thrilled that we're working together again in 2026. We have 2 summits coming up in 2 weeks' time. So both the Viz teams and the health teams are really busy working on those, as well as more summits throughout the course of the year. So I'd love to hear from you. What really moved health from being a one-time partner into a long-term partner?
Yeah, it's just the quality of the partnership overall. You guys are really easy to work with. You're really great at flexing to our needs. So for our first summit, for example, if I'm sure Shantana recalls, I think we reached out like 3 weeks before we were doing the
Yeah,
event. We had some changes
I
on our
remember
side.
that.
We weren't
Yeah.
initially planning on partnering with another company on the event, and decided it was the right decision. And Not that I'm telling other people to do that on this call. I think you require a minimum of, 2 or 3 months at least for planning these events.
Thank you,
But
Jude.
you guys really, we were kind of up against this deadline, and you guys were, willing to step in and figure it out and figure out how we can work in a way to make it work. So our team ended up, maybe taking on some things that your team normally would just because it was more efficient. And then your team stepped in where we needed you most. And I'd say for each of the events we've done with you, we've really had this kind of like flex relationship of figuring out what works for both of us. So I think for other companies, you guys actually do, maybe even more of the content. You guys kind of do all of it. For us, just based on the nature of like our company culture and how we work, we
Yeah.
do a lot of the content and just kind of keep you guys informed, and then have you guys really focus on where we need you most, which is more on the like communication front, on sending out invites to people from your network. And then where I think it's really important
Yeah.
is just giving us kind of that confidence of how we're going about the events. These summits are the only like really custom events that Viz does, whereas you guys are doing these events year round. So you see different things that work and
Yeah.
don't work, and are able to pull from those learnings, and then also pull from learnings from our events, and replicate those at other events. So I know that like we did a fun wine scavenger hunt activity at one of ours, and I think you guys have taken that and used that for other events too.
Yeah, it's always great to kind of break the ice with something fun before or after. Yeah, you guys were a pleasure to work with, and yeah, it was nice to kind of mold ourselves to where you needed most. Um, and then Jude, thank you so much. I think this has been really useful. There's lots of folks on the line. As I mentioned, it's a mix of providers, payers, pharma, as well as a lot of growth stage companies. Do you have any advice for any brands that are looking to move beyond the show floor? Potentially, they already work with health in that capacity and move towards kind of more full year-round engagement.
Yeah, I would say that the just generally speaking,
Any
doing the
advice to any folks on the line?
yeah, generally speaking, just doing these custom events, these curated events, hosting our own events outside, totally separate from congresses, has been really valuable. And it's something I've heard from others at, marketing and other companies too, that it's something people are really seeking these days. I think, maybe it's coming out of COVID. We're seeing that COVID did not lead to the death of conferences and in-person engagement. It's definitely changed things, but people are also still craving that, in-person interaction. But I would start with, what is it that you're trying to accomplish? Like not the tactic, but the objective. And then, then go through the motions of, well, who are the people we'd want to get there? What would the topics be that would be most interesting? And who are the speakers that would be most relevant? And health, can provide a really good partnership and guidance on that, and really help curate that agenda.
Thank you, Jude. I think that's really helpful. I'm going to move to the Q&A. There's a couple of questions there, and I encourage everyone to answer questions in the final couple of minutes. So the first one is, how do you advise brands to sequence health offerings? For example, reports, roundtables, webinars to build momentum rather than isolated touch points. Well, thank you for your question. I really like the way the Viz team actually did this, and it really depends on what our partners' objectives are for the year. But it works really well to front load the year with these insider events, where really the objective is building relationships, gaining insights. It can inform your strategy, inform your thought leadership for the rest of the year. And then you can build relationships with very senior leaders, which you have the rest of the year to close the partnerships with. So you can thought leadership towards the back end of the year that you can use it for the following year works well. And I do think there's a natural rhythm as well as it pertains to working at the Health and Vive events. We have done a lot of work with Viz, particularly outside of these events, which works very well. But we do these closed formats at Health and Vive events off the show floor. And it works really well because you're not restricted by the geography of the participants you want to. It's a great opportunity to really engage them and get them all in the room. So that's my answer to that question. Jude, I don't know anything from you on how you advise brands to sequence the health offerings. Anything to add?
I think what you said makes sense. I think generally there's not like one order that makes sense, but definitely when sequencing, thinking about how they all kind of work together. So whether it's, you do Y activation first and B second or vice versa, just thinking about like the through line of all of them.
Are there any natural synergies between the opportunities you offer that generate higher ROI? Great question. So again, it really depends on what the partner is trying to achieve. If it's return on investment and you want to close deals, I would always suggest a roundtable with very specific targets that we'll hand select so that you can learn more about their business, build relationships with them, and continue the conversation beyond the roundtable, or an insider or summit like we did with the Viz team, which is a slightly larger format. There we bring leaders onto the stage, we'll create a panel, we'll hand select a number of participants to join us. Oftentimes we'll do workshops and generate content from it, but you get to build fantastic relationships, have great conversations. So in terms of closing partnerships and close proximity, they would be the two products that I would recommend. And how your team thinks about community-led growth overall. Great question.
Yeah, so I think generally one thing that was kind of a surprising takeaway from the summits, like I said, we went into it wanting people to be able to cross-share insights and all of that. But one surprising thing was there was this kind of FOMO element we saw, which was that people that, we had stakeholders there from pharma companies we were already working with, and stakeholders from pharma that weren't working with us. We're just generally curious and wanted like the general insights from a company like Viz that's AI used by doctors, and kind of hearing about how other companies were working with us created this sense of urgency where then even if they were completely new contacts we hadn't talked to before, there was a lot of interest coming out of the summits, and wanting to make sure that they were having follow-up conversations and learning about what we do so they could, stay abreast of the space and then potentially work with us. And just generally speaking, just the value of doing these types of events. So like I said, we've done a couple that were more geared towards pharmaceutical leaders, given that we do partner with them, but our technology is actually used by providers. It's in the hands of providers. And we hadn't done these types of events with providers before, and we're actually going to do our first one, and it's in partnership with Health in a couple of weeks. So just based on the value we've seen on them, we figured it was worth trying and seeing if it works replicating on the provider side. So we're bringing together a bunch of C-suite leaders from different healthcare institutions, different heads of different clinical and technology units at hospitals. So looking forward to seeing how that goes, and I'm confident that it will be a great event.
Us too. We're really excited about this one, and it's shaping up to be a great event. And I totally agree. I think it works very well when our clients and our partners bring on their current clients, because there's nothing like a client and a peer being an advocate for your business, and their peers being able to ask them questions about how Viz.ai has been so helpful, what type of partners you like to work with. So I think that works really well, and it's a really smart approach. Well, Jude, thank you so much. This has been incredibly insightful. If there's any more questions from the audience, there will be an option after to ask questions. For everyone who joined us today, the takeaway is very, very simple. The impact doesn't stop when the show floor closes. So the health beyond the show floor products, our roundtables, our insiders, our entrees, help brands to stay visible all year round, to build trust with senior decision makers, and create meaningful, measurable outcomes.
Thanks again to everyone that joined us today. Please visit our website, HLTH.com, or scan the QR code to learn more about Health's year-round products. If you have any additional questions, we'd love to hear from you. Join us in Los Angeles, February 22nd to 25th for Vive.